The red dust of Mars swirled around the excavation site as Isabella Martinez adjusted her helmet's filtration system. 3 months into the dig, and the Olympus Mons archaeological station had yielded little more than broken pottery and crystalline fragments. That was until today. The metallic surface gleamed beneath her brush strokes, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with a faint, bluish light. Isabella's heart raced as she carefully cleared away centuries of accumulated debris. This wasn't like the other artifacts they'd found. This was something entirely different. "Base, this is Site B. We've got something unusual here," she reported, her voice steady despite her excitement, requesting immediate analysis team deployment. Within minutes, the quiet dig site transformed into a hub of activity. Research pods hummed as they descended from the main facility, carrying senior archaeologists and scanning equipment. Dr. Maya Patel, the mission director, was the first to reach Isabella's position. "What have we got?" Maya asked, crouching beside the partially exposed artifact. "It's unlike anything in our database," Isabella explained, projecting a holographic display of her initial readings. "The metal composition is foreign to our solar system, and there's an energy signature emanating from within." The scanning team moved in with their equipment, bathing the artifact in various frequencies of light. As they worked, more of the object became visible. It wasn't just a fragment. It was an intact console, perfectly preserved beneath the Martian soil. "Look at this," one of the technicians called out. "The energy readings are responding to our presence. It's still active." Isabella watched in amazement as symbols began appearing on the console's surface. They shifted and changed, seemingly adapting to their observations. Then, without warning, a holographic display burst into life above the console, filling the air with streams of data. "It's reconfiguring itself," Maya breathed, watching as the alien text transformed into recognizable characters. "It's learning our language." The team stood in stunned silence as words began forming in Earth Standard. Lists and rankings scrolled past, each entry accompanied by detailed analyses and power ratings. Species names they'd never heard of, civilizations that must have risen and fallen before humanity had even learned to make fire. "It's some kind of database," Isabella said, her eyes scanning the information. "A ranking system of the most powerful species in the galaxy." She navigated through the interface, which responded intuitively to her movements. There are thousands of entries here, spanning millions of years. As they delved deeper into the database, a pattern emerged. The rankings weren't static. They shifted over time, tracking the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Some species had maintained their positions for millennia, while others appeared briefly before vanishing into obscurity. "Wait," Isabella said, her voice catching. "Something's wrong." She cross-referenced the dating system with Earth's timeline. According to this, the database has been actively updated well into our modern era. We qualify for every criterion it lists for evaluation, but Earth isn't on the list, Maya finished, her expression thoughtful. Not a single mention of humanity anywhere in the rankings. The implications of this discovery sent a ripple of excitement through the team. Why had Earth been excluded? What did this ancient system know about humanity that they didn't? As if responding to their questions, the console pulsed with new energy. A message appeared in the holographic display. Evaluation sequence NITITED. Parade pairing for species ASCSSM int. The ground beneath them trembled slightly and far above. Through the dome of their research station, they could see new lights appearing in the Martian sky. The console had awakened something, and Earth's absence from the list was about to be addressed. Isabella looked at her colleagues, their faces a mixture of excitement and apprehension behind their protective visors. They had just stumbled upon something that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The question wasn't whether Earth deserved to be on the list, it was why they had been left off it in the first place. The console continued its activation sequence, and Isabella couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a discovery. It was an invitation. one that humanity had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Isabella and Rosa hunched over the glowing console in the dimly lit analysis chamber, their faces illuminated by streams of holographic data. 2 weeks had passed since the discovery, and the Olympus Mons facility had transformed into a hive of concentrated research activity. "Look at this entry," Rosa said, gesturing to a particular data stream. The Guerrillian Empire, ranked third most powerful for 50,000 years, then vanished completely within a decade. She pulled up another record, saying with the Marians, "Technological advancement off the charts, then nothing." Isabella nodded, making notes on her tablet. "There's a pattern here. The most powerful civilizations seem to follow similar trajectories. Rapid advancement, peak achievement, then a sudden disappearance." She paused, studying a recurring symbol in the database, and every time this mark appears in their final entry. The symbol resembled a spiral with 3 intersecting lines. It appeared in countless records, always marking the end of a civilization's timeline. The database classified it as evaluation completed, but offered no further explanation. Maya's team decoded more of the base programming, Isabella continued, pulling up a new set of files. The ranking system isn't just observational, it's predictive. It analyzes species potential and calculates their likely development paths. Rosa leaned back in her chair, rubbing her tired eyes. "So why aren't we in it? Earth's been sending signals into space for over a century. We've colonized Mars, established bases on Europa. We should at least register on their scales." Before Isabella could respond, their instruments detected an energy spike. The console pulsed with new activity, projecting a 3-dimensional star map of their local galaxy cluster. Thousands of points of light flickered across the display, but what caught their attention were the new signatures appearing in Earth's orbit. "Those weren't there yesterday," Rosa said, enlarging the image. 7 distinct energy patterns had formed a perfect heptagon around Earth. Each pulse synchronized with the others, creating a resonance pattern that their instruments struggled to analyze. Isabella's tablet chimed with an incoming message from the Lunar Observatory. "They're seeing it too. Whatever these signatures are, they're physical phenomena, not just data projections." The console suddenly shifted its display, showing what appeared to be historical records of similar patterns around other worlds. In each case, the appearance of these energy signatures preceded first contact with the Galactic Council. "Rosa," Isabella said slowly, "I don't think we were left off the list by accident. I think we're being evaluated right now." Their research was interrupted by a facility-wide alert. Dr. Patel's voice came over the comm system. "All personnel to the main observation deck. We have confirmed movement in high Earth orbit. Repeat, all personnel to observation." Racing to the deck, Isabella and Rosa joined their colleagues at the massive viewing windows. Through the thin Martian atmosphere, they could see new lights joining the strange energy signatures around Earth. These weren't the subtle pulses they've been tracking. They were ships, massive ones, emerging from what appeared to be fold space. The console in their lab activated automatically, displaying new information. Details about the arriving vessels scrolled past. Council Diplomatic Fleet, Standard Evaluation Protocol, Species Assessment Team. The database, Rosa whispered, "It's not just a historical record. It's active, connected to whatever civilization created it." Isabella watched as more ships appeared, their designs unlike anything humanity had encountered in their exploration of space. "All this time, we thought we were studying them," she said, "but they were studying us." The facility's communications array crackled to life with an incoming transmission. The message was brief, broadcast simultaneously to every human settlement in the solar system. "Greetings, Earth. The Galactic Council acknowledges your achievement of baseline evaluation criteria. Formal assessment will commence in accordance with Protocol 7249 Alpha. Prepare for contact." As the message repeated in multiple Earth languages, Isabella and Rosa shared a knowing look. Their discovery hadn't just unearthed an ancient artifact, It had triggered humanity's first steps into a much larger galactic community. The real question was, were they ready for what came next? The United Nations Assembly Hall buzzed with nervous energy as delegates from every nation gathered for humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council. 3 days had passed since the ships appeared in Earth's orbit, and now the moment of truth had arrived. Isabella and Rosa sat in the front row alongside Dr. Maya Patel and other members of the Mars excavation team. Their discovery had earned them places as scientific advisors to the hastily assembled First Contact Committee. A soft hum filled the chamber as 7 beams of light materialized on the central platform. The light coalesced into forms that seemed to defy conventional physics, beings composed of crystalline structures and flowing energy. Their leader, who introduced herself as Ambassador Cathera, stood slightly taller than the others, her form shifting between solid and ethereal states. "We greet the representatives of Earth." Cathera's voice resonated in perfect Earth standard, though her form showed no obvious means of speech. "Your species has reached a crucial junction in its development. The activation of the Evaluation Archive on Mars has initiated the next phase of your civilization's assessment." Murmurs rippled through the assembly as holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing detailed analyses of human history. Isabella recognized the format from the Mars database, but these records were far more comprehensive. "Your path has been unusual," Cathera continued. "Most species follow predictable patterns of advancement. Yours has demonstrated remarkable irregularities. This is why standard evaluation protocols were delayed." The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. "Delayed? You mean Earth was intentionally excluded from the rankings?" Cathera's form shimmered with what might have been amusement. "Not excluded, observed. Your species possesses traits that our standard metrics struggle to quantify. Traditional power rankings proved inadequate for your assessment." Rosa leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overtaking her awe. "What traits specifically caused this difficulty?" The ambassador's form shifted, projecting images of human achievements throughout history. "Your adaptability exceeds normal parameters. Where other species specialize, humans generalize. Where others optimize, you improvise. Your solutions often defy probability calculations." The holograms showed scenes of human innovation. The first flight at Kitty Hawk, the moon landing, the Mars colonies, but also smaller moments. A child learning to walk, artists creating masterpieces, scientists testing hypotheses. "The Council has determined that standard evaluation methods must be modified for Earth," Cathera announced. "We will conduct 5 specialized trials to properly assess your species' capabilities. The results will determine humanity's place in the galactic community." Isabella felt her heart race as the ambassador turned toward the Mars team. "Those who discovered the archive will serve as humanity's primary representatives in these trials. Your actions activated the evaluation sequence. Your insights will be crucial." The chamber erupted in discussion, but Isabella barely heard it. She was focused on the new data streaming across the holographic displays. Details of previous species trials, success rates, consequences of failure. The statistics were not encouraging. "The trials will begin in 7 Earth days," Cathera declared. "We recognize this time frame may seem abbreviated, but your species' documented ability to perform under pressure factored into this decision." As the assembly continued, Isabella noticed something in the council members' behavior. Subtle signs of what seemed like anticipation, perhaps even excitement. They weren't just here to evaluate, they were genuinely curious about humanity's potential. The first session concluded with the establishment of preliminary protocols for human council interaction. As the delegates began to disperse, Ambassador Cathera approached Isabella and Rosa directly. "Your discovery was not coincidence," the ambassador said quietly. "The archive reveals itself only when a species is ready. The question that remains is, ready for what?" Before either woman could respond, Cathera shimmered and vanished, leaving them with more questions than answers. The council ships remained in orbit, their presence a constant reminder that humanity stood on the brink of a transformation. Looking out the assembly hall's windows at the evening sky, Isabella could see the faint glimmer of the council vessels among the stars. In just 7 days, they would begin proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. The weight of that responsibility settled over her like a tangible force, but alongside it came a surge of determination. Earth might not have asked for this evaluation, but they were going to prove they deserved it. The testing chamber aboard the Council's primary vessel defied human understanding of spatial physics. Isabella and Rosa stood in what appeared to be an infinite void, yet their feet remained firmly planted on an invisible surface. Around them, members of the evaluation committee hovered on platforms of pure energy. The first trial evaluates problem-solving under extreme conditions, Ambassador Cthera announced. Previous species were presented with scenarios tailored to their demonstrated capabilities. For humans, we have designed something different. The void shimmered, and their surroundings transformed into what appeared to be an alien metropolis. Towering structures of crystalline light reached toward a purple sky, while streams of energy flowed like rivers through the city's heart. This is a real-time simulation of Nexus Prime, one of our most advanced urban centers, Cthera explained. We have introduced a cascade failure in its primary systems. You have 1 hour to prevent its collapse. Isabella and Rosa exchanged glances as holographic displays materialized around them, showing incomprehensible streams of alien data. The city's crystalline spires pulsed with warning lights, and distant alarms echoed through the streets. There's no way we can learn their entire system in an hour, Rosa said, studying the rapidly scrolling information. Isabella watched the energy flows, noticing patterns. Maybe we don't have to. Look at how the power moves. It's like a river system. What if we treat it like environmental engineering instead of alien technology? They began working, applying Earth-based solutions to alien problems. Where the Council expected them to decode complex technological systems, they instead used basic principles of fluid dynamics and energy distribution. The observing Council members shifted uncomfortably as the humans ignored standard protocols, instead creating makeshift solutions that shouldn't have worked, but did. When a power surge threatened to overload the city's core, Isabella suggested rerouting the energy through secondary systems in a pattern based on how lightning follows the path of least resistance. Impossible, one council member muttered as their unorthodox solution stabilized the cascade. They're succeeding without understanding the fundamental principles of our technology. Thera's form flickered with interest. Perhaps understanding your technology isn't as fundamental as we assumed. The simulation shifted, presenting new challenges. Each time, Isabella and Rosa approached the problems from unexpected angles. They treated alien technology like natural phenomena, finding solutions based on patterns they recognized from Earth's ecosystems and basic physics. Final sequence initiated. Cthera announced as warning lights bathed the city in crimson. Core containment failing. Total system collapse in 3 minutes. Rosa studied the energy distribution map. The power flow, it's like a river delta. When rivers flood, they create new channels. Isabella finished. We don't need to stop the surge, we need to give it somewhere to go. Working together, they quickly reconfigured the city's energy grid, creating auxiliary pathways based on natural drainage patterns. The power surge dispersed harmlessly through the new channels, and the crisis alarms fell silent. The simulation faded, returning them to the void. Council members conferred in hushed tones, their crystalline forms shimmering with what might have been agitation or admiration. Fascinating, Cthera said finally. You succeeded, but through methods we never anticipated. Instead of learning our technology, you made our technology adapt to principles you already understood. We call it lateral thinking, Isabella explained. Sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. Indeed, Cthera's form pulsed thoughtfully. This trial was designed to test your technological aptitude. Instead, it revealed something far more valuable. your ability to find clarity in chaos, to see patterns where others see only complexity. As they were transported back to the preparation chamber, Isabella caught fragments of the council's discussion. Phrases like unprecedented approach and requires recalibration of assessment parameters drifted through the air. Rosa smiled. I think we just changed their understanding of problem solving. Maybe that's the real test, Isabella replied, watching the council members continue their animated discussion. Not whether we can adapt to their way of thinking, but whether we can show them there's more than one way of think. The chamber doors sealed behind them as they prepared for the next trial. They had passed the first test, but something told Isabella that the council's surprises were just beginning. The third day of trials brought something unexpected. Instead of another test, Cathera invited Isabella and Rosa to observe the council's analysis session. The chamber walls displayed their previous trial performances, but with a peculiar focus on moments the council deemed irregular. Watch this sequence again, one of the council members, Zextil, directed. The display showed Rosa comforting a simulated alien child during an evacuation scenario. The parameters required efficiently moving civilians to safety. Yet she stopped, sacrificing precious seconds to address one individual's emotional distress. And the result? Cathera prompted. The child's caretaker unit, observing this interaction, proceeded to assist in organizing the evacuation, improving overall efficiency by 47%. Zextil's crystalline form flickered with confusion, but there was no logical reason to predict this outcome. Isabella watched the recording, understanding dawning. Empathy, she said simply. Rosa showed empathy, and it created trust. Trust inspired cooperation. The council members shifted, their forms rippling with interest. Another sequence played, showing Isabella's solution to a resource distribution problem. Rather than optimizing for maximum efficiency, she had created a system that, while slightly less efficient, fostered cooperation between different groups. There's a pattern in their decisions, another council member noted. They consistently choose solutions that prioritize connections between individuals and groups, even when more straightforward options are available. Cathera moved closer to the humans. Your species has survived multiple extinction-level events, advanced technologically at an unprecedented rate, and developed space travel despite significant resource limitations. We assume these achievements came from superior problem-solving abilities. But that's not what you're seeing, is it? Rosa asked. No, Cathera admitted. Your problem-solving skills, while impressive, are not statistically exceptional. What sets humans apart is how you solve problems together. Your solutions often appear suboptimal when viewed in isolation, but they create ripple effects that strengthen your entire social fabric. The displays shifted to show historical footage from Earth, crisis response teams during natural disasters, scientific collaborations across international borders, communities rebuilding after devastation. Most species we evaluate develop either strong individual capabilities or effective group dynamics. Zextil explained. Humans have somehow maintained both. You cooperate without losing individuality, adapt without sacrificing identity. Isabella watched the footage thoughtfully. On Earth, we have a saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Maybe that's what makes us different. We don't just work together. We become something more when we do. The council members conferred briefly in their crystalline language. Thar turned back to them. We have been measuring power incorrectly, she announced. Our metrics focus on quantifiable achievements, technology, military strength, resource control. But your species has shown us that true power can emerge from less tangible sources. New data streams appeared, showing analysis of human artistic expression, cultural exchange, and social bonds. The council had begun measuring things they had never considered relevant before. The impact of music on group cohesion, the role of shared stories in maintaining hope, the power of collective emotional resilience. Your trial results require us to reconceptualize our entire evaluation system, Cathera said. The question is no longer whether humanity deserves to be ranked among powerful species, but whether our current definition of power is adequate. Rosa smiled. So we're not just being tested anymore. We're helping you learn too. Precisely. Cathera's form brightened, which leads us to tomorrow's trial. Instead of testing your abilities according to our standards, we want you to demonstrate how humans measure achievement. Show us what power means to Earth. As they left the chamber, Isabella and Rosa realized the dynamic had shifted. They weren't just subjects being evaluated. They were becoming partners in redefining how an entire galactic civilization understood progress and potential. They're starting to see it, Isabella said quietly. The thing that makes Earth different. What's that? We don't just survive or advance. We connect. We hope. We dream. She looked back at the council members, still studying the displays. And maybe that's the most powerful force of all. The observation deck of the council's vessel offered a breathtaking view of Earth below, but Isabella and Rosa had little time to admire it. Cathera's announcement of the final trial had left them stunned. You want us to solve a Class 9 cosmic anomaly? Rosa asked, studying the holographic representation of a massive space-time distortion threatening a distant star system. Even your most advanced civilizations have only theorized solutions for this level of problem. Precisely, Cathera's form pulsed with an intensity they hadn't seen before. This is not a simulation. The Centauri Beta system faces real destruction from this anomaly in exactly 48 hours. All previous attempts at resolution have failed. Isabella stepped closer to the hologram, watching the swirling vortex of destructive energy that was slowly consuming an entire solar system. Why give us an impossible problem? Because, Kerr replied, humanity's greatest achievements have often emerged from situations others deemed impossible. We want to observe your response to genuine impossibility. The council chambers filled with other members, all watching intently as Isabella and Rosa began analyzing the data. Hours passed as they studied every failed attempt by other civilizations, each solution more complex and technologically advanced than the last. Wait, Isabella said suddenly, looking up from her calculations. We're approaching this wrong. Everyone's trying to stop the anomaly directly, but what if we think about it differently? Rosa moved to her side, catching on to her train of thought, like a forest fire. Exactly. Isabella turned to the council. On Earth, sometimes the best way to stop a wildfire is to start another one. A controlled burn that deprives the main fire of fuel. The council members stirred uncomfortably. You propose creating a second anomaly? Clara asked. The mathematical probability of success is virtually zero. The risk of accelerating the system's destruction is extreme. But it's not about the math, Rosa interjected, already working on new calculations. It's about understanding the nature of the problem. Sometimes you have to work with chaos rather than against it. They spent the next several hours developing their plan, incorporating elements from Earth's natural disasters management, fluid dynamics, and even musical harmony. The solution wasn't elegant by council standards. It was messy, intuitive, and required precise coordination between multiple teams. We'll need help, Isabella announced, not just from the council, but from every spacefaring race and range. Each ship will need to generate a specific frequency of energy at exactly the right moment, like a cosmic orchestra. Thera's form flickered with what might have been concern. You wish to risk ships and lives on a plan that defies conventional physics. Yes, Rosa said firmly, because that's what humanity does. We take risks together, trusting that our combined efforts will achieve what none of us could do alone. After intense debate, the council agreed. Within hours, ships from a dozen different species assembled around the anomaly, following the humans' unconventional plan. Each vessel positioned itself according to patterns inspired by natural phenomena on Earth. The arrangement of petals in a flower, the spiral of a nautilus shell. All ships in position, Clara announced. Though I must note that several of our most advanced civilizations are questioning their participation in this unprecedented approach. Isabella and Rosa shared a knowing look. That's okay, Isabella said. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from being willing to try something that seems crazy. Initiating sequence, Rosa called out. All ships begin energy pulse on my mark. What followed was unlike anything the Council had ever witnessed. Dozens of ships working in perfect harmony, creating a complex web of energy that didn't fight the anomaly, but rather guided it, shaped it, used its own power against itself. For one terrible moment, it seemed to fail as the anomaly grew larger. But then, like a wave breaking on the shore, the chaotic energy began to dissipate, flowing harmlessly into the controlled channels they had created. When it was over, the Centauri Beta system was safe. But more importantly, the Council had witnessed something they had never seen before. Multiple species setting aside their differences and working together, trusting in a solution that none of them fully understood. Cthulhu turned to the humans, her crystalline form glowing brightly. Perhaps, she said softly, we have been measuring the wrong kind of power all along. The Grand Council chamber hummed with energy as representatives from every major galactic civilization gathered to hear the final assessment of Earth. The curved walls display humanity's trial performances, but the focus had shifted from their solutions to the ripple effects those solutions had created throughout the galactic community. Isabella and Rosa stood before the assembly, no longer feeling like test subjects, but rather as representatives of something larger than themselves. Cthulhu's form glowed with an intensity that reflected the magnitude of the moment. We have gathered, Cthulhu began, not merely to evaluate Earth, but to acknowledge a fundamental oversight in our understanding of cosmic civilization. The chamber darkened, and a new holographic display materialized, showing the original ranking system they'd discovered on Mars. For millennia, we measured power through quantifiable metrics: technological advancement, military capability, resource control, territorial expansion. Earth's evaluation has forced us to confront the limitations of these criteria. The display shifted, showing moments from the trials. The unorthodox solution to the city's power crisis, the emotional intelligence that improved evacuation efficiency, the unprecedented cooperation that saved the Centauri Beta system. Humanity was never listed in our rankings, Cthulhu continued, because our systems could not properly calibrate your species' potential. You defied our algorithms, confused our predictions, and challenged our fundamental assumptions about progress. Rosa leaned forward. Are you saying we were too unpredictable to rank? Not unpredictable, another council member, Vexlara, interjected. Transformative. Your methods don't just solve problems. They change the nature of the problems themselves. You create possibilities where we saw only limitations. The chamber filled with images from Earth's history, cave paintings next to space stations, ancient healing practices alongside modern medicine, tribal gatherings beside global telecommunications. Most species, Cthulhu explained, advance by optimizing their strengths and minimizing their weaknesses. Humanity advances by embracing both, finding strength in vulnerability, wisdom in uncertainty, and power in diversity. Isabella watched as the display showed their final trial, but from a new perspective. It highlighted how their solution had required trust between species that had never cooperated, how it had created connections that persisted long after the crisis was resolved. We did not list Earth in our rankings, Cthulhu announced, because you represent something we had never encountered, a species whose true power lies not in domination or control, but in catalyzing change and growth in others. The chamber erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. The very concept of ranking civilizations suddenly seemed inadequate, like trying to measure the ocean's depth with a ruler. Your presence in the galactic community, Cthulhu continued once the chamber quieted, has already begun reshaping how species interact. The cooperation during the Centauri Beta crisis has led to new alliances, cultural exchanges, and collaborative projects that would have been impossible under our old paradigm. The displays showed new data, rising rates of interspecies cooperation, increasing cultural exchange, the emergence of hybrid solutions to ancient problems. Earth's influence was spreading like ripples in a pond, touching civilizations they hadn't even met yet. "We thank you," Thera said, addressing Isabella and Rosa, but speaking to all of humanity, "for showing us that true power lies not in being the strongest, but in making others stronger. Not in knowing all the answers, but in asking questions that reveal new possibilities." As the formal session concluded, Isabella turned to Thera. "So what happens now? Where do we go from here?" The ambassador's form shimmered with what they had learned to recognize as joy. "That," she said, "is exactly the kind of question that makes your species so remarkable. You achieve something unprecedented and immediately look toward the next horizon." Rosa smiled, understanding dawning. "We were never meant to be on the list, were we? Because we're not meant to be ranked against other civilizations." "No," Thera agreed. "You were meant to help us create something entirely new. A galactic community not of competition and hierarchy, but of cooperation and growth." She paused, her form brightening. "The real question is, are you ready to help us build it?" Isabella and Rosa looked out at the assembled representatives, seeing not alien beings, but potential partners in an unprecedented journey. Earth hadn't just passed a test. They had helped the galaxy realize it had been taking the wrong test all along. 1 year after the trials, the Mars Archaeological Station had been transformed into the Galactic Cultural Exchange Center. The original ranking console, which had started it all, now stood as a historical artifact in the center's main hall, its displays showing not rankings but connections between civilizations. Isabella stood at the observation window, watching ships from dozens of species arrive for the first Galactic Cooperation Summit. Each vessel represented a different civilization, yet they moved in harmony, their flight patterns reflecting the new protocols developed through human-inspired collaborative navigation. "Still feels surreal, doesn't it?" Rosa joined her at the window, holding 2 cups of coffee, a beverage that had become surprisingly popular among their alien visitors. "Remember when we thought we were just digging up ancient artifacts?" Isabella laughed, accepting the coffee. The chamber below buzzed with activity as representatives from across the galaxy prepared for the summit's opening ceremony. Thera materialized beside them, her crystalline form now adorned with patterns inspired by Earth's art. "Your discovery has catalyzed changes beyond our most optimistic projections," she said, gesturing to the gathering below. "Species that once competed for rankings now collaborate on joint ventures. Traditional power structures are being replaced by cooperative networks." The main display activated, showing a real-time map of galactic civilization. But instead of the old hierarchical rankings, it showed a web of connections, trade routes, cultural exchanges, joint research projects, and diplomatic relations. Earth sat at the heart of many of these connections, not as a dominant force, but as a nexus of innovation and collaboration. The Centauri Beta intervention was just the beginning. Rosa noted, pointing to various points on the map where similar cooperative efforts had succeeded. "Every crisis solved through collaboration creates new opportunities for connection." Isabella watched as a group of young aliens gathered around a human teaching them the basics of jazz improvisation. Nearby, a council scientist discussed Earth's ecosystem management techniques with environmental experts from 3 different species. "We've started something remarkable," Thera observed. "Other species are not just learning from humans, they're learning how to learn from each other. The old rankings measured what civilizations could achieve alone. Now we measure what we can achieve together." The ceremony began with a presentation of the new Galactic Charter, a document that replaced the old hierarchy with principles of mutual growth and cooperative advancement. Each species brought unique strengths to the community, and success was measured not by individual achievement, but by collective progress. Humanity's greatest contribution, Thera announced to the assembled delegates, was not any single achievement or innovation. It was showing us that true civilization is not about reaching the top of the list, but about lifting each other up along the way. As the summit proceeded, Isabella and Rosa moved through the crowds, witnessing countless examples of their impact. Species that once guarded their knowledge now shared insights freely. Ancient rivals worked together on joint projects. The competitive drive that had dominated galactic society for millennia was being channeled into collaborative efforts to solve greater challenges. You know what's really amazing? Rosa said, watching a group of children from different species playing together in the recreation area. We didn't have to become the most powerful species to change things. We just had to be ourselves. Isabella nodded, remembering their initial discovery of the ranking system. Maybe that's the real lesson here. Power isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about bringing out the best in others. The day concluded with a ceremony that officially retired the old ranking system. The ancient console's final display showed not a list of the most powerful species, but a message. Power measured in isolation is limited. Power shared knows no bounds. As the gathered species celebrated this new era of cooperation, Cathura approached the humans one last time. Your species once looked to the stars and wondered if you were alone, she said. Now you have helped us all realize that we never truly were. We just needed someone to show us how to connect. Isabella and Rosa stood together, watching Earth's light shine among countless others in the galactic display. They had discovered more than just an alien artifact that day on Mars. They had uncovered the truth about humanity's place in the universe, not as conquerors or competitors, but as catalysts for a new kind of civilization, one where the measure of greatness lay not in dominance, but in the ability to bring out the extraordinary in others. The old rankings were gone, but something far more valuable had taken their place. A future where every species could reach its full potential, not by climbing over others, but by rising together.